Right now, the Obama Foundation has announced that Danutcha Catriona Singh, Managing Director of SOLS Foundation, has been selected as part of the prestigious 7th cohort of Obama Scholars for 2024 till 2025 academic year. And this marks a historic achievement as Danutcha becomes the first Malaysian to be chosen for this esteemed program. And she will join the 30 emerging leaders from around the world in an immersive leadership development experience with 12 scholars, including Danutcha, attending Columbia University in New York City, while the remaining 18 scholars will be at the University of Chicago. And right now we have Danutcha herself on the line, joining us live to speak on this matter further. All right, good morning, Danutcha.
Hi, good evening from Chicago.
Oh, sorry about that. Maybe firstly we could start with, how do you envision a SOLS Foundation that is evolving after completing the Obama Scholars Program? And let us know that, are there any particular strategies or collaborations that you plan to implement in the future?
Well, I'm really honored and excited to be part of the Obama Foundation Scholars Program. In fact, I'm currently in Chicago for the orientation, which wraps up tomorrow. So the program is just kicking off, but my vision for SOLS Foundation is to implement, as an example, the design thinking and strategy knowledge. And that's just an example of 2 classes I'm learning from Columbia University. And the purpose is to scale our programs more effectively, particularly in the renewable energy and the education access arenas. And as part of the program, I will be developing an action plan, which I'll be refining throughout the next few months. And in terms of collaboration, even within the cohort of global leaders that I'm a part of, I hope to integrate more, like innovative ideas and approaches that can further enhance our programs and make them more impactful and sustainable in the long term for Malaysia.
And perhaps what are specific challenges throughout the whole program, and what did you face while scaling SOLS Foundation's programs, especially when working with indigenous communities, and how did you overcome all of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So SOLS actually began working with Orang Asli since we started in Malaysia in 2007. In the beginning, one of our key challenges was building trust with Orang Asli communities. We addressed this by going on the ground to meet with and learn from the communities directly. We engaged with Jakwa and also aligned our education programs with the needs of communities. But another challenge that was frequently expressed by others working with Orang Asli was that programs had to be short-term, and programs had to be done, or were more accepted to be done, in the village itself. Because usually participants, especially Orang Asli in education programs, they were not able to take long periods out of the village. But we wanted to do more long-term education interventions because that's where we saw the greatest rate of skills development and personal transformation. And so we set up community centers where we actually place teachers directly in the community, living with them for a period of up to like a year per teacher. We also provided the opportunity for Orang Asli youth to come to KL for a fully sponsored 12-month training and boarding program, which helped them to get the training and support that they needed to obtain employment outcomes. Now, SOLS is actually one of the organizations in Malaysia with the highest retention rate of Orang Asli youth in education programs outside of the villages. So that's how we overcame it.
And your effort that you're doing right now is actually an eye-opening and also inspiring effort that's coming from you. And your leadership has focused on bridging community and also education and employment gaps for undeserved communities or Orang Asli. So what systematic changes do you believe that are actually necessary for this approach to actually have a broader and more sustainable impact in the future?
Well, let's give some context about the education and employment gaps. So on average, close to about 2/3 of B40 households are dependent on one income recipient or one income source. And 8 out of 10 of them only have 1 month's worth of savings. So this leaves 1.2 million households vulnerable to economic shocks. And what happened during COVID is an example of an economic shock. So the typical avenues of intervention for poverty elevation tend to, mainly target income growth per household. And this results in only a relative and temporary improvement. But when a country goes through an economic shock, we believe relative improvement it's insufficient, to have those mechanisms to face income disruptions. So the education employment gaps for those living in B40 income levels, we call them wicked problems. You know, they are complex. They come with all those associated difficulties in all areas and stages in life, not only in education, but like arguably transportation, health and nutrition, you know, safety, living conditions, the list goes on. And SOLS actually conducted an in-depth study on the characteristics of the B40. We did the research in 2020, 2021, so over the time span of a year. And we did it to truly understand the challenges the B40 faces. We call it the B40 characterization map. It lives on our website. It's open source for anyone who wants to access it. Now, to create the systemic change for B40 community, transformation of education outcomes and socioeconomic outcomes at scale need to be established first. So SOLS has developed a three-phase model to work towards driving systemic changes that will impact the socioeconomic outcomes for the B40. Phase one is to transform education outcomes and working skills, and this is at an individual level. Phase two would be to transform socioeconomic outcomes at scale, which is impact at scale. And phase three is to reduce the numbers in the B40 vulnerability category, which is a macro change. So with this in place, systemic reforms in education that prioritize community-led design, integration of employment skills in the curriculum, and a better alignment between vocational education and the job market. Additionally, policy changes that support equal access to quality education. I think this is something that the marginalized communities would need and are crucial for long-term impact for Malaysians.
And you mentioned earlier about how we want to reduce the vulnerability of these undeserved communities. But however, we want to have a more holistic approach where with SOLS Foundation's Solar Program Academy successfully preparing youth for careers in green energy. So how do you actually see this initiative align with Malaysia's national policies on renewable energy or NETR?
So the Solar Academy actually aligns to both Malaysia's policy on renewable energy as well as the government's efforts to improve the technical education and training, you know, TVET, the technical vocational education training initiatives for youth. And for those who don't know, because we haven't mentioned Solar Academy before this, I'll just do a quick recap that the Solar Academy is actually a full scholarship for Malaysian youth to a 12-month training and boarding program that's run by SOLS Foundation. And we train youth in solar PV, electric vehicle charging skills, English, digital skills, and professional development. And we also have embedded an apprenticeship program. And the goal of all of this is to get youth employed in renewable energy, and in particular, the solar energy sector. It's a program that closes the gap between training and employment outcomes. So coming back to your question, I think Solar Academy aligns with the Malaysia's national renewable energy and the TVET goals because we are equipping youth with the skills needed for green jobs, which directly support the country's energy transition. You know, they want to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by, I think, earliest 2050. And we are also aligned by promoting TVET as a primary career choice. So our focus on the practical training, the strong job placement rates aligns with Malaysia's push for that sustainable economic development through renewable energy. And we really hope that we can further contribute to national targets by expanding our solar energy training programs.
Amazing. And apart from that, apart from education and also green economy or green energy, the Obama Scholars Program also focuses on leadership development, which is across regions and also issues. So how do you plan to actually leverage the global network and also knowledge at the same time that you gain from the program to further SOLS Foundation's mission? And how do you anticipate the Obama Scholars Program will refine or transform your leadership approach, particularly with the diverse network of global leaders it provides access to?
All right. So from what we are learning from the program teams at the Obama Foundation and the Columbia World Projects, I can already see from the past, like, you know, from what we've been discussing during our orientation, that I'll really have the privilege of being exposed to different leadership models and challenges from around the world. So we'll be introduced to and we'll be learning from and interacting with thought and industry leaders throughout various workshops and sessions. So I anticipate that I'll be able to, I think, broaden my perspective. I think that's the first thing that's key in growth, and it will actually help me to rethink how I lead and collaborate. But although that sounds very much about me, I think at the end of the day, it's not just about refining my strategy, but also enhancing my ability to inspire and empower my team and the communities that we work with to drive the change. So it's not just me that's driving it, but we have to shift the thing for the people around me to also be able to drive that change.
Danutcha, earlier you mentioned about wanting to actually streamline the SOLS Foundation's programs. So what specific elements do you think need to be refined, and how will this improve the foundation's ability to scale up? And at the same time, how do you believe the leadership skills and tools from the Obama Scholars Program will help you address Malaysia's socioeconomic challenges?
Okay. I think what we want to streamline and refine, I think, would be our operational processes, particularly in data collection and program optimization. Because I think by improving our data-driven approach, we can better measure our impact, we can streamline our delivery, we can make sure that the programs are more responsive to real-time needs. And by having all of this in place, that will help us to scale up more efficiently, ensure that the quality and sustainability as we grow are sustained. And I think also we want to make sure that we deeply embed that feedback loop between participants and us to ensure that we're getting that. What was the second part of the question? Sorry, because I know that was the first part was streamlining.
It's about how do you actually elevate your leadership skills and so tools to help or address Malaysia's socioeconomic challenges, especially for low-income and undeserved communities like orang asli.
Yeah. So I think that in terms of the leadership tools that I'll be getting to help me to tackle the socioeconomic challenges is having that more strategic mindset, because I think it's important for nonprofits in particular, that's where I'm coming from, is to design that more effective, more scalable solutions, particularly for the education and access in low-income and orang asli communities. So with that, I'm actually engaging with the Obama Foundation and the Columbia World Projects to help me to build those stronger networks and partnerships, because I want to bring back the systems, I want to bring back programs and innovations to Malaysia and into the hands of the communities that need.